comments are very important. I would also remind you that Robert's Rules of Order are still in force at this meeting. Try not to interrupt someone when they're speaking and allow everyone to have a say. Mr. Burton.
I have the agenda here if you want to continue with the moment of silence and pledge. And
We can do
Yep.
that.
I included all that since we are doing an action item for business.
That's
I went ahead
correct.
and set everything up.
All right.
Normally.
At this time, we'll have a short moment of silence. Okay. This time we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do I have a motion that we approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I don't think there is any. I don't think we have anyone here to do public comment, so we'll move through that, and go on to our,
Folder here.
we're gonna do this first.
Yes, authorize the purchase.
Okay. Yeah, I'll turn this over to Mr. Burton about the cruisers, police cruisers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those, if y'all were at the council meeting, Chief Rice handed out a packet with some pictures. I didn't duplicate that for this morning. We have talked to the individuals. There's three Ford Taurus cruisers with light packages, the cages. They're fully upfitted. The only thing they don't have are radios and radars. We do have that stuff here. They're 2015 Ford Taurus police interceptors, and
Low mileage.
they're low mileage. I'm seeing 46,000 and I think 37,000. So that's what the mileages are. There's some pictures here if needed, but they're with the South Carolina surplus through Homeland Security. So the pictures I've seen, they've been taken care of. We would just seek authorization to buy up to three for $45,000. We get down there, we don't like one, we'll just say we'll only take one or two or maybe all three, but that's what we would like to do. So
Do we know if they all came in the same department or?
that I don't know. I'm gonna imagine that they would, since they all got sort of the same number of mileage. Homeland Security used them, so they probably got used around the airport going different places. So
I'd like to make a motion to approve that authorization to buy those three cars, or with the intent to buy them.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
okay. Good morning. Thank you for coming. I'll try to run through this. I feel like some of this is going to be fairly straightforward. However, there is a couple of new things that I want to bring to your attention and discuss. This is the utility fund presentation. The presentation is under the tab called Narrative. I guess I should go through the booklet first. The info tab has things It's the memo that I sent the department head. It has all the goals, everything that we discussed at the goal setting session in January. And then the following document is the budget guidance that I handed out to the department heads. Y'all have already seen that. The second tab is the narrative. It's got today's presentation in there, and it also has the draft budget with the budget narratives, some maps, some org chart, and a few other charts in there as well. The general tab obviously is empty. We won't be going over that today. Now the ARP tab has some American Rescue stuff in there. I'll go over that. HTAX is empty. We'll do that next meeting. Under utilities, all the worksheets, line item worksheets are in the back of that. Same way for capital. And at the very end are the fees. The only fees that are in here for today are the utility fees. So that's a preview of the workbook, of the binder here. You can take those with you and just add to it. So
You see,
yeah, presentations on the board there.
might be easier for me to read that than try to read this.
This first slide is just going back over the city goals that y'all adopted in January. Develop opportunities for residential and commercial development, improve our communication, teamwork, and customer service with a focus on recreational programs, invest in human capital, create competitive employee compensation and workforce, continue to support infrastructure, capital replacement programs, and complete established projects and continue strengthening community partnerships.
Why don't you two want to come over, sit over here, because that's going to be hard on.
I'm gonna read right here.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't turn around.
All
I'm gonna make a suggestion,
Yes.
and I've thought about this for 3.5 years. Why don't we hang another TV monitor right there? Because of the layout of this whole room, that defeats the purpose.
Yeah,
And you could easily tie them together.
we can look at that. Yeah.
Those things are
Do
cheap
that.
nowadays.
Yeah, TVs are cheap now, so.
It,
Yeah.
even when public's in here, you know, it's,
Yeah, if you're
You-
sitting
you can't
right
see
here
it.
up front.
Or if we
you're
turn
too
it so we
close,
can
or-
see
yeah,
it, then
yeah.
nobody sees it.
Yeah,
Just a thought.
we can do that.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Would you like to make that a motion, sir?
No, I'm not. You can make an executive decision on that all by yourself.
Go ahead and do it now. while we're eating.
I'll get on Lowe's.com. Some of the things that we have, I call them threats, but they're just things that we deal with here inside the city. Inflation, obviously, that's on top of everybody's mind. The growing costs of goods and services, our increased demands on staff due to our growth. We just have so many accounts now for the size of our staff, and we get lots of things going every day. The volatility of public interactions. Most of our interactions with the public are fine. However, since COVID, for whatever reason, the public is a lot more hostile towards government operations. So we do see an uptick in shouting matches in the lobby and things out in the field. So that's just, I think that's just the nature of government now. Static revenue streams, this is particularly on the general fund. I'll show you some stuff next time about our revenues and where we're at and sort of at some point where we need to go. And obviously aging infrastructure. We don't have any new facilities aside from the water plant. Everything else has been in the 90s and before. So, and our water and sewer infrastructure is more than that. So, all right, this new budget introduces some new concepts. We established a $15 an hour minimum for 80-hour pay period employees. We already made this adjustment with funds that we had in the utility fund. We were able to move some of that around and take care of the maintenance staff. So any new staff person that comes on, whether it's a front clerk or a meter reader or a maintenance worker, will start at $15 an hour. I would like to get ahead of the curve, cause I feel one day that'll come down from the federal government, so. This budget does propose to create a new water crew, one equipment operator and one maintenance worker. We have a backlog of small projects, we've got a backlog of taps, one crew chases leaks, so we feel like this would help double up on our workload, on our output, and get a lot of this stuff done. We already have the equipment in place, so there's no need to buy new backhoes. There's a dump truck they could pull it with. We do have the equipment for now to make this crew happen. This also, again, if you'll remember our discussions a couple years ago, this funds contingency and depreciation. Our bond ordinance requires us to pay money in to those funds annually or on a monthly basis. Reduces annual lease purchase payment. We do have a little bit of cash in our fund balance that we're not using, and I'll dig deeper into those numbers at the general fund workshop, but I would like to go ahead and pay off some lease purchases for the general fund and the utility fund, and that will ultimately save us about $300,000 a year in annual payments. The lease purchase payments that we have currently in the utility fund are the jet vac machine that was bought in 2019 and a couple of Tacomas that was bought on a lease purchase as well for the meter readers. I alluded to this last year, but went ahead and started doing it this year. Doing some cost accounting, and the utility fund this year will fund half of the city administrator's salary and half of the city clerk's salary. Basically, the budgets between general fund and utility fund are roughly 4.5, around 4 million, same. So I deal with utilities probably half the time. Ashley does well. The utilities is our biggest money maker. It's our biggest spender. So we do deal with that a good bit. 2 facility maintenance techs that will be funded half each. This is the new concept. I've already talked with our rec director. We're discussing a change up in the rec department, and my propose to bring him and Dennis over under administration, fund them half out of general, half out of water. They will be our facility maintenance crew. There is a backlog of stuff here, stuff at the gym. There's stuff they can fix at the fire department. There's stuff they can fix at the water plant. There's stuff they can fix over at the shop. John's an electrician. He understands control, so he'll be an asset out the water plant. He'll be an asset generally. He's already done a lot of stuff for me at the depot, at the Earl House. He's changed out. He's in the process of working on changing out lights here. He's done it in the office, so I think it'll be money well spent to do that. Dennis will be retiring December of this year. He's already discussed that. None of this is any surprise to them. Talked at length with John and the other department heads too. They fully support this. They feel like this will be a big help in getting a lot of our stuff up to date, repaired, and looking better as well. So that's one thing that's proposed in this. By doing so, I'm able to save some personnel, some salary dollars in the rec department. Reallocate those and hire an additional full-time and hire some part-time staff. And I'll explain all that more in detail later if you want to, or during the general fund workshop as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Another highlight is returning roughly 19% of our sewer revenues to contingency for construction, rehab, and upgrade. This proposed budget brings our sewer fund in the black for the first time. We won't be taking any money out of fund balance or operational dollars out of the water account. Continues to utilize ARP for construction. This is the $2.4 million from Oconee County, and there's $350,000 taken out of our ARP fund and put over to water to help cover some of their salaries and the materials and supplies for this second crew to help things. So, and for the capital improvement fund, There was a little over $200,000 requested, but we are gonna, propose to fund the mini excavator out of the capital improvement fund. In doing that, we can sell the existing, mini X and put those funds back into that capital maintenance fund, so. It's an org chart of where we're at. The clear boxes, the equipment operator and the maintenance worker, those are obviously proposed. Engineering tech position is still vacant. Everything else for the first time has been filled. So we're doing pretty good with that. Getting in a little deeper with the highlights, this creates a new equipment operator. Starting pay would be $39,000 annually. One maintenance worker, 31.2, that's 15 an hour. Again, it doubles our input. We have the equipment on hand to accomplish this. Breakout funding, the administrator and the city clerk. It splits the cost of managing both utility and the general fund. I started exploring this last budget season as a way to help spread the costs around and take some of the burden off the general fund as well. 2 facility maintenance techs. This kind of bleeds over into both departments, or both funds, the general and the utility fund. Proposing a retirement fund as a part of a recruitment and retention program. The city would pay for 75% of the city's retiree insurance until they reach the age of 65. The caveats are the retiree must retire from the city with 28 years or 25 years if they're in the poor system, and must have spent the last 15 years of that time unbroken with the city. Lauren, there's packets over there in that chair of the presentation and the booklet. I forgot to mention that, so if you want to follow
I've
along
been
and
looking
make
on my
notes.
phone, but thank
Okay.
you.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that.
Question,
Yes.
all right, retirees must be with the city 28 or 25, depending on what department they're with.
Correct.
This would, I guess where the advantage would be if someone had those 28 or 25 years and was under the age of 65, that's basically what we're doing.
It's covering 75% of that insurance amount until they reach 65.
And that's a short list,
It is a short list.
and it's,
I understand that.
yeah.
Yeah. In reference to, do we pay 100% of the employee's insurance now?
We do, that's correct.
That's what I
Yep.
thought. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, for the employee, we pay that 100%. If they choose to get vision or dental, that's additional for
Or
them.
family.
Or family, spouse and or family.
Now, this would be going forward, this would not,
Correct. It'd be going forward.
anybody that retired last year or
No.
now, this would
And
start after
and
the
the
budget.
the huge benefit of that is just like it says, it's a recruitment structure, you know, it's
It's-
something we offer to our career employees.
This, Coach, this is something probably similar to what the school district does. isn't it?
It is, and we looked at the school district's program and sort of tailored it to them, to that.
That's a deal. It's good.
So someone retires, we would end up paying about $425 a month. The employee would have to pick up $140 a month, plus they would also cover additional dental and vision if they chose to. Estimated costs for the next 5 years. We've got 3 employees that are eligible for this. And the number of years to reach 65 range from 4 to 19. We have someone that's worked here all their life. They're still young. worked here 28 years. So, as you can imagine, there's a pretty good gap. So taking all that into account, we're looking around 40, let's just say round number, $46,000 for the next 5 years is what it would cost. I did not include this in the budget. This is one thing that I want y'all to provide direction for us. If this is something you like, do you want to see the percentages more or less? Looking for direction and input on this program. Yes.
So I'm not quite understanding, when it talks about, you say it's 100% right now, is this a cut for them?
The city covers 100% of the employees' benefits
While they're working.
while they're working. For the employee, now if they have a spouse or a family, we pay some of it, but they have to pay the additional cost of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but after they retire, yes, we would only cover up to 75% of that, and they would have to make up the balance.
And how is it right now after they retire?
Zero.
Zero. They have to pay everything
If
on
they
their
wanna
own.
stay on.
Yeah, if they want to stay on.
Okay, thank you.
The question I would have on this, I would want us to think through it and make sure it's not gonna cause anybody to retire that would stay on working, because of the insurance. If there was a way to, let's say, you just reached 28 years and, you're 60 years old and you were not planning to retire because you couldn't afford to pay the insurance. Now, the city's gonna pay 75% of it. Would there be some way to maybe offer them part of that money as an incentive not to retire?
Almost like a Terry plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's,
Yeah.
I did. I did part of the Terry, and then I went ahead and retired for my last two, which is,
Yeah,
but I still work for the
I just
district.
don't want this to bite us. I think it's a great idea, but I don't want it to bite us because we have several employees that wasn't planning on retiring. Now all of a sudden they were retiring. I don't know. Just need to think that through.
We've only got, I know there's there's three people that for sure are gonna retire. No ifs, ands, or buts. But there's 3 folks in the next, from now until 2038, there's only 3 employees that would retire and, you know, I don't wanna give out their age, but
Sure.
would
So it's
have more than a handful of years in the in a program
So
like this.
that's probably not going to affect us that much. Right?
No,
Plus,
not-
them other few employees are high salary employees.
Yes.
They're not gonna quit or retire just for that benefit, cause they're making a healthy salary.
No, and there's 2
They
employees.
can afford to pay it either way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's 2 employees on here that do retire with quite a few years to make 65, but probably I don't look for them to retire, so I'm not sure that would be an issue, but we can definitely dig a little bit deeper to see what we could do.
Okay. I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
Okay.
Would this then automatically, help short-term?
It'd be up to y'all, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, he'll retire right around the first of the physical year, so, yeah.
The way I look at it, a career employee that's worked their whole, pretty much their adult life here, we should give them something,
No, I'm with you.
you know?
I'm with
And then for the future, it's a recruitment incentive. If you come to work here and work your career here, we're gonna help you when it's over. Right.
Yeah, my question was, is it, we're passing this, we'd be putting this in place soon enough so
Well,
short change could take advantage of it.
I think so, yeah.
Well, if we passed it, it'd be effective July
Budget
1st.
year.
Yeah.
Well,
budget
he's
year.
retiring April,
In June.
May,
In
June.
y'all would have to give us direction on if you wanted to make it retroactive.
I would imagine
So-
that he might want to stay a few months if he knew that was a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Any more questions? This is the CPI, basically inflation for the last couple of calendar years. As you can see, from 21 on, it's exploded. I looked up the cost of the CPI. The first one is just across the USA, which is typically a little bit lower than specific regions. And if you look in a southern region, and I didn't break it out by the states, I could have, but even in this past year, we're still around 7% for inflation for the Consumer Pricing Index. Those are web links over there if you want to dig in a little bit deeper. And then what I found interesting is the Social Security cost of living adjustment. That was, I believe, enacted with the federal budget last October, because they run different years, different fiscal years. That was 8.7%. Capital improvement program. We had $266,500 requested. There was a lawnmower, a vacuum trailer, a service truck, a locator truck, and a mini excavator. For now, we're proposing to fund the mini excavator. We've got a current Bobcat, Mini X. It's seen better days, but it's still got some service life in it, and it can be sold, and those funds go back to replenish the capital improvement fund. Capital improvements.
Do you know that the age and condition of that one we're wanting to replace?
It is a 20-year-old
Okay.
331 Bobcat.
Hours?
He didn't put the hours on here. I can find the hours out.
I'm sure it's substantial.
Yeah, 20 years old and
Yeah.
doing this job, yeah, you're not gonna get much out of
No,
that.
that's what I was asking for, but yeah. You got a ballpoint, a regular pencil pen I can use. This thing flows and it don't write all this stuff. Thank you.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay. Water line replacement, this is the big one, going up Highway 11 for $2.4 million. This is funded from the county's ARP. Sewer system upgrades. If you'll remember, several years ago, we've got a couple $100,000 from Joint Regional, and we just kept that in our fund balance to do sewer system upgrades. I'm doing something a little bit different this year, and you'll see it in the actual line items. Instead of counting this as revenue, I'm trying to clean up our accounting. Instead of counting it as revenue on one side and then putting that money in a line item in the sewer fund, I'm moving all this in contingency. That way, as projects come up, I can get y'all's approval to spend that money out of that fund. We don't have to do a budget adjustment. It cleans up the accounting. It makes it a lot easier for myself, Ashley, and Jason to track the trail. So I should have done this last year, but I was just kind of changing a few accounting methods of the way things have always been. So this is why some of the revenues will look a little bit different. I didn't really like the way everything played out last year because the revenues looked inflated because we had these different pots of money that was in our fund balance, and we would move them, consider it revenue, and move it back and forth. And it's hard to track from year to year. If you forget and don't add it in, this just puts it in the contingency fund that the bond ordinance sets up. You can use it for water and sewer. We'll earmark that for sewer and continue to use that. That just makes the accounting and the understanding a lot easier. There'll be, also be other upgrades funded from contingency. That fund is pretty healthy balance in contingency. We can use that for water system improvements as well as they come up. That's allowed for by the bond, and that's what
That's what
basically
they want us to do.
that's what they
Yeah.
want you to do. That's
Yeah.
what it's there for, is to take that money instead of taking it out of your annual operating budget. You have these different funds, depreciation and contingency set up, and you can use money out of those funds. That's what they want you to do to maintain that. Kind of a historical look of the revenues, just in water and sewer over the last couple of years. Our new water plant came on in 2020. In 2021, you can see the big jump. We started churning out about 1.8 million gallons a day, and now we're right around 3. So the demand for our water has just about doubled in 2 years. So you can kind of see where we're at, and that last column over there on the far right is our year-to-date column. So obviously it's not as high as the last 2 years. Any
But
questions?
based on where we are now, it'll still be as great or greater, won't it?
Yes, looking at the trends from this time last year and this time year, we're on track to meet that goal. So, this next slide is just our year-to-date expenditures for the physical year in each of the divisions: the water plant, the water billing, water crew, and sewer. You can kind of see where we're at.
And they're pretty well on track on their budget for this year.
Yes. There's a slight discrepancy if you look between the revenues and the expenditures in sewer, but that's some money that we had from the sewer authority. There's about close to $100,000 in there that we have spent to do some work, and that's why it doesn't balance out. And that's why I want to change how we do that fund accounting, is so it just makes that cleaner. These are our proposed expenditures for fiscal year '24. Obviously, the big part of it is the water crew. The second big part is the water plant. And the water plant includes our bond payment as well. So that's why that's got a pretty healthy balance. Sewer, 192,000. That's well down from $1 million. That's due to the fee structure and the payment process that we'll be doing with the sewer authority. We'll be collecting those funds. We'll still be billing the customers. We'll just collect that and pass that through. It won't be considered a revenue line item for us or an expenditure. We won't be getting a bill from them. They'll be telling us how they've set the rate, and then we'll be charging on the usage and turning that over to the sewer authority.
Does that help us on our debt ratio?
It does.
Okay.
It does, and it actually, it adds more to the customer because we have to tack on $1.40 for our operations, but that cuts out a lot of cost because we can't capitalize that sewer treatment charge. That's a O&M cost, not a capital cost, so that does help us on that.
So question with that,
Yes.
with the debt ratio on that fund. So how's that gonna work out when we put in half the cost for the administrator's fee and all that?
It comes out of it.
I know,
Yeah.
so how are we doing, here the ratio's getting better when we cut the sewer out, and then when we put all that back in, how does that come out?
No, we still meet the 1.2.
Are we coming out better in making it, or even, or?
About even. We were at 1.3 last year, and we're at 1.28 this year for proposed. So we're right
Okay.
there in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay, so without this readjustment of the sewer, we really couldn't do that.
No.
Okay.
That afforded us, to do that. And then other jurisdictions do it. Now, mine and Ashley's salary wouldn't be able to be capitalized, but the maintenance crew, their salaries can be capitalized. If they're putting in replacement stuff that's been depreciated or working
Okay,
on, we
okay.
can take that salary and I've had them track that. They fill out sheets on how many hours and who works, so we can capitalize that salary.
Okay.
Yeah, and that just helps us even more. I didn't figure any capitalized salary in this, but at the end, when the auditor and the accountant auditor gets hold of it, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've got
Never
a-
done that in the past, but it's definitely an option, because Jason said there's another jurisdiction he works with that does that, so.
Well, don't, we have another sewer maintenance salary too, don't we? Didn't we add a employee on the sewer side, or is it still just
It's
one?
still one, it's still underwater, so they float back and forth,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Once we do it this way, and, things get tighter, can we go back, or are we stuck? Once we do accounting that way, where the administrator and the city clerk and
we
all
can
that.
go back.
We can go back, we're not
Yeah,
stuck in
no,
that
we're
saying,
not.
hey, you did it this way, so you're always doing it that way.
No.
We
no.
could go back to ease off so we're not
Yeah.
getting in danger of blowing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, we're doing this to save on our general fund.
I understand.
And the other thing is, there may come a time when we get a lot of this construction done, that you won't be
Right.
spending as much
Right.
time.
The previous administrator was paid a portion out of utilities and a portion out of general. So since I've been here, I know probably the last 3 years it's all come out of general. So I mean, you can go back and forth, and we can go back mid-stride. We just make an adjustment, mid-year
Okay.
adjustment. So no, it's not a one and done deal.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
This is kind of how our water and sewer expenditures broke out under the water fund. Roughly a quarter of our water budget goes to the bond payment, 1.2 million. 30% is salaries, 26% is operations, and 14% goes to transfers. I think that speaks fairly well of how our budgets broke out. Most of the time, salaries is over 70% of your budget. That's rather low. So that right there tells you we run a pretty lean organization in respect to the bond payment and the O&M costs. Now the 14% transfer, some of that does go, 550,000 of that does go towards the general fund. The other goes towards contingency and depreciation. So we are paying into those funds. Sewer, same way. Operations is 54%. Salaries is 30%. There's only one employee. And then transfers out, that 31,000 goes directly into the contingency fund. There's no money going from sewer to any other general fund or anything else. So. Water and sewer, I already mentioned it, but 50,000, 60,000, 50 goes to depreciation, 60 goes to contingency. We're pulling some 350,000 out of ARP to cover construction costs, material costs, things of that nature. We still have the option, there's still some money built into the budget. If a part-time water plant operator wants to convert to full-time, that's still an option. Adds a new crew to help with the backlog of projects, and this continues to build out the radio meter system. Been pretty successful with that. We've got some funds left over this year. We're going to be adding another collector, which is basically a radio site that'll be able to pull in more. It just expand our coverage and pull more in. And we're also looking at putting a collector on the sanitation trucks, the garbage trucks, so when they go most of these routes, they're picking up even more data, so.
So, you tell me about that, Brandon, so, the only collector we have right now is here, is that right?
There's one here, there's one on, I think on Scott's truck, and then there's one out, at Chalmers Mountain.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's getting how much of our area?
That I'm not exactly sure how much, I believe it's getting all the radio reads that we've got now. But as we build out, and there's some that gets farther out,
I
we've
gotcha.
got to move towers so we can grab
Okay.
those
Yeah,
things.
we're only, what, maybe 30% of our customers anyway?
I think so. This site here won't get all the way down to the Bounty Land area, but if we do put one up on the mountain where we're looking at, it'll cast its net over the whole thing unobstructed, and it's a lot higher.
You're right.
So it'll go down and be able to get those. It still blocks the backside over at Falcon's Lair and the Oconee, the station road, that way, Old Station.
So that's
Still
why
blocks
we
that.
need it on the garbage trucks.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't need it on the garbage trucks otherwise.
If we had another collector site out there somewhere, we wouldn't, no. So, but that's something that we're just looking at, putting it on a garbage truck. Since they're running that route anyway, they'll be getting daily readings except on the weekend. So that's just adds more data points
That,
to the system.
I get to see that personally, how that's working, and that is working fantastic. Oh, my
Yep.
problems are solved like this,
Yep.
because they can say, well, at this hour on this day, and at this hour on this
Yep.
day, it is fantastic.
Yeah, you can pull up especially one that's on a reader, that's constantly being pinged. Yeah, you can pull that up and see that data instantaneously, so.
I mean, so much of the grief that you're getting up here,
Yeah, it's cut. Oh, yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
no problem, this is exactly, oh, yeah, I know what happened that day. Oh, it happened then, oh, I didn't know that. Problem solved.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need to argue, fuss with anybody anymore, and they're not likely to fuss again
Right.
because they ate crow on that day.
Yeah. So no, it's been a big help.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
Overview of the number of water accounts. As you can see, we are steadily growing. Since 2020, we've added almost 400. 400 accounts. So we've been pretty stout in adding water taps.
Supplies with taps are better now.
Yeah.
Haven't heard.
We've, I think it's in the narrative here, and I'll go through that. 160 something were installed last year, and this year we're already up to 81.
In the first quarter.
Yeah, so it's pretty stout.
Yeah.
The snapshot of our coverage area. These aren't water customers, but these are all the lines. So you can tell we go out to Lake Kiwi, out Knox Road, go out Falcon's Lair, and then go down towards the Bounty Land area. So we cover several county council district areas that we touch.
That's an interesting slide there, Brandon. Do we really have that many areas inside the city that doesn't have a water line
Yeah.
close by?
Yeah. They're all on the roads. There's some big chunks of land in there, and all that's around Sertoma. I know this is just going to pick up the main lines. It's not
I
going to
got you,
pick
okay.
up any branch lines or any way. But you can see all the larger parcels that don't have the water. Most of the main lines are all on the streets.
Hey, got a question. We've got that chunk there going southeast, the town mostly east, southeast, that doesn't have anything in it. Is that open for us, or is
That's
that,
West Union.
oh,
Back kind of east, back towards the lake. Going towards the lake.
yeah,
and-
south of 183 there?
Yeah,
and-
all that's the
And it gets,
West Union and Seneca District too.
oh, Seneca comes around that way.
Seneca comes around there, and we actually buy water from Seneca to boost our pressure and volume in the Lake Kiwi area. Yeah,
I
we're- we're-
didn't know
Yeah, we're
that.
tied in. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. The little portion of that's West Union, and the remainder of that's Seneca, because they've got the water tower out there on Ebenezer Road.
Seneca does.
Seneca does.
I see,
Yeah.
okay.
A big area too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the amount of lake developments in that
Yeah.
coming in up and
Some and all
around.
that.
Sewer accounts, I'm thinking I had a bad number for 2022. I know we didn't lose a bunch of sewer accounts, so I'm doing some investigating to see about the number for 2022. I think I had a bad number, so because going back and looking at the numbers and looking at our revenues, they've not changed. So that was just a bad number that I got last year.
I mean, physically, you can't lose sewer without losing the water.
No, so
You know,
when
that's-
I got the number for this year, and it was like, why did I have such a high number
Yeah.
last year? So I'm gonna go back and we're going back and trying to figure out why we had a bad number. But and I know that number's bad because our revenue.
Well, they didn't
doesn't match up.
increase that much from 21 to
No,
22 either.
no, that's.
They couldn't have.
This is just a map of our sewer areas. This is the north part. This is in 3 maps. So this serves going up Highway 11 to the high school. We got that pump station there on the creek on 183 just before you get to Highway 11. Next slide is all the lines, the manholes inside the city, and some outside going towards Torrington. Down that way, and then this is the Flat Rock area that goes out, and all this ultimately ties into the joint regional system. I didn't show their system, I just showed the city's lines. So, and this is the south side of town. And that's it for the slides. I'll go through the actual binder here. Point out a few things and entertain any questions. We've been going about 50 minutes. Y'all want a break, or y'all good, or
Just keep going.
keep going? Okay. Under the narrative tab, just past the presentation, I'm not gonna bore you with reading everything, but I've already said we started with 1.8 MGD. Now we're around 3 MGD at the water plant. We're projecting right around $4.6 million of revenue out of the water fund, and there is no proposed rate increase for the utility fund, or for the water fund aside from sewer. As you know, our sewer fees just steadily climb. A lot of that's the backlog of maintenance on the joint regional system and the water reclamation facility down there. But with the way we're redoing our sewer fees and the payments to joint regional, we're around $192,000 on sewer projected revenue, and this will put our sewer program back in the black and allow us to contribute, for the first time, contribute funds to contingency. This next page just goes through, it's the line item, all of our revenue line items that we bring in. I mean, water sales, we were right at $4 million, 3.89. Water tap fees, you can see it was pretty stout, $212,000 for fiscal year 2022. So we did pretty well. Water penalties, pretty stout, $88,000. Reconnect fees, $26,000. Telecommunications is $26,000. We lease out portions of our towers for other telecom providers to stick their tower on our tower, so that's where that fee comes from. Looking at this and looking at our growth and our consumption, we're hoping we can hit around $4.3 million this year in water sales. I don't know that we'll hit $212,000 worth of water taps, but I'm hoping that we can still, we've had 126,000 dollars in water tap sales, this physical year so far. So I'm hoping we can stay on that trend. There's several, new developments coming along that are still in the works, even those that can't talk this morning. There's been a slight downturn in the economy. They've slowed down a little bit, but they've not stopped. So we still get requests for new taps.
As long as the interest rates don't hike anymore, it might stay there.
Yeah, if
It's gonna get harder to sell these new homes if they keep hiking the rates.
it will, and that's just one thing that we'll have to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And make adjustments as necessary. So next page is sewer. As you can tell, we've sold about $10,000 in the past, and I don't know why that didn't catch up in the year, previous year actual. But so far we've done about $10,000 worth of sewer taps. So some of those go along with the water taps too. So if we can just continue that trend for another year, we'll be good. That'll be another $10,000 that we add to contingency. But at $1.40, no base fee for any city user, any sewer users, it's $1.40 per thousand. We're looking at $182,000 in revenue for the city for 2024. The one nice thing about this new proposed budget is it eliminates West Union fees. We don't have to account for those. Those users will pay that. We will still, well, we probably won't collect that money since they do their own water billing. They'll have to collect that money and turn it over to Joint Regional. We won't have to
But
fuss
you know, the good thing
with
about
West
this,
Union.
the future of this and operating the sewer in this direction is, in probably not the too far future, we could start adding some sewer lines in town.
Yeah.
As this housing market develops
Yeah.
in places we don't have them.
Yeah.
We have no ordinance in place for that, like we do water, but if we keep that operating in the black and keep adding to that contingency, we could start looking at that.
Yeah.
Cause the more line we have, the more taps we
Yeah.
can sell.
Absolutely.
Right now, they're just,
Especially if there's a developer. that-
absolutely, we
Yeah.
don't wanna lose that
Yeah.
on a community development down the road.
And there will, probably under depreciation, we'll have to fund some stuff, but we'll have to do some lit pump station work on our city-owned pump stations at some time. But
Well, our sewer infrastructure is not as critical as the water, I would say, cause it's not pressurized.
right, it's all gravity.
It's all gravity.
Well, most of it's
Well,
most of it is.
as long as we keep it clean and above the flood, those lines work.
And we've got, if we get this SCIP grant,
Mhm.
we'll finish our trunk lines
Mhm.
on both the Cane Creek and the Flat Rock side, and that'll take care of a lot of our issues.
Right.
So, hopefully we'll hear back from that in the next couple of months.
On the sewer revenue, sheet down here, so we have, for year 2023 approved, is that because we are out of line with those numbers?
No, that's what y'all approved for.
Yeah, I know we approved that, but did we approve that much because we were out of line with those numbers? Because, we have gone, are we gonna get close to that?
No, if you'll remember that 290,000, I counted that as revenue because we hung that back for fund balance. So you'll just have to X that out. No, we won't get to that 1.5 million because some of that 290,000 should have been stuck in contingency, so it doesn't mislead on the revenue side. But it's always been put in the revenue side.
Okay,
So, but no, we won't hit 1.5 million.
right,
Because you just subtract that almost 300,000 out.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, but we're not grossly in error on our balance or
No.
anything?
No.
Okay,
No, we're tracking pretty good.
Yeah, we're almost at $800,000,
Mhm.
and if you take that 290, whatever out of that approved budget, we're not that far.
Yeah. Next page is just another chart of our historical. You can see how our revenues are. The next couple of pages are pretty much what was in the slides. Unless someone has questions, we'll flip through there. Basically, the presentation is a watered down version of all this, but there's a few things in the papers here I just wanted to point out. They're not page numbers, but after sewer expenditures, you can kind of look at our FY23 year-to-date cash flow. And when looking at this, just remember this is double entry accounting, so a debit is a credit and a credit is a debit when you look at this, so just keep that in mind. We're pretty good with our cash flow. You can see some of those in October and typically February. We spend a lot of money because that's when we pay our insurance premiums. We have a lot of things. So last fiscal year's cash flow, we got a grant for Stump House and an ARP payment, so that's why there's some spikes in the debits. So this is a bond retirement schedule for the 2018 series bond. Looking about at 2033, another 10 years, you'll be paying half of your bond payment will go to interest and half will go to principal. So right now, most of our 1.2 million that we're paying out annually goes towards interest. But over time that decreases, and hopefully the interest rate in the market's in a better position. You can find that spot to where you can refinance and maybe take care of some things. So lease purchases, as I mentioned, the lease purchases on the pickup trucks and the jet vac are proposed to be paid off at a fund balance. It'll eliminate $187,000 of short-term utility debt and save about $70,000 annually over the next 3 years. The following page addresses our debt service ratio, and you can see proposed for FY23 is 1.28. Last year it was 1.3, but I set aside $100,000 to cover fuel. This accounts because there's no rate increase and there's increased expenditures for fuel and other materials.
And
That's
this
why
is
there's a
within the
fluctuation.
guidelines that they gave us.
It is, yes. We just have to maintain a 120%. So we're still good there. This goes through our different funds that we've got. The ARP fund, contingency, depreciation, debt service. We are maintaining 1.2 million in cash in case something catastrophic happens. We can still make a bond payment for the year. So, capital improvement fund. This is just the utility side. There will be some general fund expenditures, but $63,000. We will contribute another $80,000 annually. I just take that off the top of our budget. We did this for this fiscal year and propose to do that again next fiscal year.
One question back
Yes.
to the debt service.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, when we issued those bonds, we bought an insurance policy as well.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
still?
We have it, but I've been told if you have to use it,
Well,
You're done.
you're pretty much.
You're done thinking on your water plan.
But we do have an insurance policy
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is we've got a year's worth, plus we have an insurance policy
Correct.
as well.
Correct. Flipping on through is just more information about our the structure of the utility department. Under the water crew, we have 6,768 customers, nearly 300 miles of potable potable water line, 2 pump stations, 4 storage facilities. Fiscal year 22, we installed 169 taps, and so far we've installed 81. So, and that, I believe that should be calendar year instead of physical year. Installed some fire lines, replacing a large diameter meter out at Itron. Applied for $12 million worth of SCIP grants. There's just some narratives that go there. More about the water plant, about the billing. Same slides that you've seen on the presentation, and there's another picture. Flipping on over to sewer, this $12 million, you can see Connor Ross Creek Sewer Rehab, Flat Rock Sewer, and then Cane Creek trunk line rehab. All that, those $1 million projects were included in the SCIP grant. We still have the consent order out ongoing. We're still working on that, and we'll continue to be working on that. These are just some bigger pictures of the maps. Flipping over to the ARP tab, line items. We won't get any money from ARP anymore because the government, that was just a 2 payment thing. But you'll notice there's 2.4 million requested and recommended. That's our reimbursement from the county. So they've assured us they'll have pretty quick turnaround on payments once we make a payment and submit them an invoice. They'll reimburse our money pretty quickly. So the expenditures show where we're moving money to. Again, I've already told you $350,000 to water, and $2.4 million from the county. So
The county is making up the difference.
no, they're paying the whole thing.
Oh, they're paying the whole.
Yeah, the whole 2.4. They're funding the whole
But
thing.
it's a reimbursement,
It's a reimbursement. Yeah.
but they are funding it.
Yes. These are the maps of the project. We had originally had intended to do 2 areas, one in the Bountyland area and one on the North Highway 11, but thankfully for all this money, this cash that flooded the market and the inflation, it drove material prices so high. This was the only thing that we could get done for this money. So had we tried to do this in 2019 and before, we'd have gotten a lot more done.
Mm-hmm.
So this severely cut our project back. H-tax is blank. Utility, these are the contingency fund. It shows some contributions to it. We started out with $1 million. We added 60,000 out of the budget last year. We proposed to spend 25,000. I know we spent some of that. I just hadn't updated the year-to-date column there. But requested for 2024, 31,000 out of sewer, and you can see 60 out of water. And that rebate, that's from the sewer authority, where I just added that to that contingency fund balance. Have it identified directly exactly what we'll spend that $1.3 million on, but it's sitting there again as projects come up. We won't have to do budget adjustments. We can just get authorization from council to spend out of that fund, so that money's there when we need it as stuff comes up. Reason I didn't plan anything, I'm still waiting on the word from the SCIP grant. That'll cover a lot of the needs. So if we don't get what we ask for, or either half or zero, we'll go back in and find some projects to use this contingency for. So same way on depreciation. We started with 600,000. We contributed 50,000 year to date. We've contributed 37.5, and we'll contribute another 50,000 in 2024, and have not depreciated or created any depreciation projects with this money just yet. I do want to build that fund balance up before we we start dipping into a depreciation, and I'm not aware of any component just yet, since we've got the new water plant and our pump stations are fairly stable, that we need to dip in
How much
depreciation.
will they allow us to spend out of that per year? If we spend, let's say we spend 100, do we have to put 100 back the next year? Do we have to put part of it? How does that work?
No, we just have to have the fund, and we have to contribute to the fund monthly.
Okay.
There was no set amount that you have to have X number of dollars at any one time. They need to see this
As long
fund.
as you're contributing that set amount.
Yeah, yeah. And I wasn't in on the original discussions. I know the funds had to be funded. I don't know at what level, but after talking to Jason and our bond attorney, these were sort of the numbers that was recommended that we start with. So, but if it does, let's just say in depreciation, we have to buy something that's $150,000. We reduce that down. We're not in any trouble. We're using that. It's just annually you've got to make,
Still contribute.
you've got to contribute.
Well, my understanding on the way that ordinance was written is these are to help control that debt ratio.
They are.
That's why that's why they demanded us set these
Yeah.
funds up.
Yeah. Yeah. These are the line item things. Really, water billing is the only one that's going up substantially, and that's because we're adding, we're paying for people halfway out of it, so.
Okay.
That's
Tell me again, who's out of it? It's half of yours, half of Ashley's,
half, and half of
but
the.
that new crew.
Yeah, the facility maintenance, yeah.
Facility
John and
maintenance.
Dennis.
Yeah, okay.
Water plant, pretty much the same. There is a little bit of increase in there. Some of the stuff has went up. Our electricity has went up. And it still has the contributions to contingency and depreciation. Water crew, likewise. That did go up with the addition of the equipment operator and the maintenance worker, and making sure everybody, all the new hires are at $15 an hour. All of our current staff is over 15, but anybody new that we hire will be at that 15, a minimum of $15 an hour. That's the increase there. You can see the request was a little over $1 million. That was for an equipment operator and 2 employees, but I cut that back to.
Where are we looking? I got lost.
We're on the line item pages under water crew.
Oh, okay. Oh, water crew. There we are. Okay, thank you.
I wanna back up a page and ask on the plant.
Okay.
I see the request on the chemicals, and I'm
Yes.
looking at this year's budget too, and it's showing us, why were we so high on the request and they're only using half of that?
The old plant took a lot of chemicals, and now we're not using there as many.
Mhm.
So we left that cushion because
Okay.
we didn't know how much it was going to really cost.
Right.
We were going off historical data. So
Cause I think
this
I
new-
asked this question last year, why was it still high when we knew the new plant was supposed to cut that?
the new plant cuts that, and it's just taking us. We just want to make sure we had a couple of years
Okay,
to make sure that is going to hold true.
gotcha.
So you, okay.
So $45,000 is gonna cover them.
It should.
Yeah.
The last page is the sewer. And then again, contingency, I'm sorry, capital in the next tab. I missed a number under water and sewer. missed some equipment that I didn't add in there, but 63,000 and ignored that 45,000 for recreation under recommended and requested that was in the wrong column. So the actual 45,000 is for, what y'all spent the other night, for that police truck. So
Okay.
I punched that in there and forgot to move that to a different line item. Just mark that out, and I caught that last night. Those capital, the total capital and the fund balance aren't correct. So we'll just have to move those over to different things. So, and I can do the math and update you on that. I'll send that correction out. And the last tab is the fees. No water fee increase, either on the base or the per 1,000, and then at the very bottom shows the sewer. There'll be no base fee, but it will be $1.40, and I've already shared with you what those fees are for the sewer authority. So we're just proposing $1.40 per 1,000 on sewer.
And this proposal has got the lease purchases already out of them?
Correct. On the recommended, now the
Yeah.
requested should have them,
Mm-hmm.
have the entire amount in there.
Well, I hope we're all in agreement. We need to get rid of that. And stay away from them.
Yeah.
Try,
Small stuff.
$150,000 ticket items, I mean, large stuff, finance, but the $40,000 and $50,000 things need to pay cash for, instead of financing those for 7 years.
If we don't have to finance the bigger ones, we don't do that either.
Right.
One of these days, this fund right here will be able to do that, hopefully. That
That's-
capital improvement fund.
Absolutely.
That's the
Absolutely.
plan.
Yeah,
That's the
That's how you
plan.
run your house, right?
exactly. Yep.
That's the plan. So that is the utility fund. I'll take any questions, comments.
Is that yours, Steve? Or is that mine? I guess it doesn't matter. Do you want
I guess the only thing I do want out of this meeting is, are y'all okay with this retirement proposal? And do you want us to spend more time on fleshing that out, or should we wait? I guess that's the
You
only,
know I am.
the only direction I'm looking for out of today. And other direction, thoughts, if you, and guidance, if you have that. I know there's a lot of information in there. I know you'll go through it, and if you've got any questions, let me know.
Well, there's two things in there that I'm 100% wanting to figure out a way to work, and that is that maintenance crew and that retirement. We did this last year and gave a big bump and pay, and to me, this is a better asset to have than that at times. Taking care of our guys long term. Just need that.
Place to live.
Yeah, right here in Walhalla.
But I don't want that to, where they don't get pay increases because they have that.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying this is something that takes care of our career workers.
I'm with you.
You know.
I would like to see that we make sure that Shortchange gets the benefit of this, that somehow
Yep.
he's not retiring a
And
month,
the-
or that we're forcing him to go a month longer to get it. I think we ought to make sure that it goes back and covers him. I mean, can you imagine that? You're gonna go and tell him, you work one more month and we're gonna do this for you.
Yeah.
1 month over
Yeah.
all these years, that's not being reasonable.
We'll figure that one out. So if y'all agree with this, we can figure that one out, so.
And I know we kind of ran through that about moving John and Dennis, but reiterating reiterate that the money to replace them and expand the workforce in the rec department is gonna save us a little money
Yeah.
by doing that move.
It will.
Well, are we gonna, is John gonna still be the rec director?
Mhm.
We're gonna hire that, that's what I made sure
Yep.
I'm understanding here.
Yep.
And he's got one.
Okay.
He's been training.
Yep.
Brianna. And honestly, she's sharp. She's I mean, she's geared for this. I watched that girl grow up and I think this is her focus for her career. Some sort of this. And
Yeah, I agree.
And honestly,
I think so too.
honestly, not by no means disgracing John for the work he does, but you know, a change might help our rec department grow some more.
Oh, and he's gifted. I knew nothing about this whole plan about him going into maintenance, but that's where he's gifted. And so that is huge for him to be in that
Yeah.
position.
And if you'll remember, my first year on the job, he was the department head of the year, and that was one of the reasons. If I needed something, John was my go-to.
Yeah.
He's always,
Yeah.
ever since
Yeah.
we've been here, he's
Yeah.
always done work at the police department.
Everywhere.
Wherever.
Yeah.
He always
And a lot of it you don't even have to ask him.
Yeah.
If he sees something broke, he'll go fix it.
That's true.
So just think what he can get done if
Oh,
that's his job.
Yeah, that's
great.
great. I
Makes
think
sense.
that's a great change. I don't know if you came up with that, who came up with it, but I think
It
it's
was a
great.
collective thing, really by all the departments.
Okay.
And there's, all the department heads support it. So it was kind of a brainchild of everybody, so
Mhm.
collectively. Makes sense. And, you know, I know we're discussing personnel matters, but John, he's aware of it and he's on board. So we're not gonna be hitting anybody with anything out of the blue.
Okay.
This has already been vetted and discussed.
Are we, I didn't think about this, discussing personnel, we're talking about shortchange and stuff. I mean, is this something that we have to kinda ask our dear sweet reporter to not mention their names?
No, I don't think we discussed anything that was completely embarrassing. It's
Well, this
something
is all
that's already-
related to the budget.
And it is, and
Yeah.
it's not embarrassing,
No.
we're thrilled about these things, I just, is this common knowledge that,
Not to the public, but it is to the staff, so, yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be common knowledge then.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great presentation and
Yeah, good work, Brandon.
we'll look it over. And
Look it over.
the
and let me
numbers
know
look,
if you have any
you know,
questions.
right off the bat, they look okay to me.
We will vote on this separately than the entire budget, is that correct? Or are we gonna vote on these?
No, it'll be combined, will it not?
It'll be combined like it was last year. We'll do a unified budget. There'll be different pieces,
Okay,
to it.
He just wanted to split this up so we wouldn't
have to do it all. at
so
once.
in depth into the whole thing at
Yeah.
once.
I mean, I would be in favor of, or agree if you wanted to vote on, but not until after we have presented them all.
Yeah.
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 We'll need to present the general fund thing, and just give you a snapshot of that. Hang on to these. I'll give you packets to put in for the general fund.
Mhm.
We've got, like I said, applications. I wanna do the H-Tax a little bit differently. I'm gonna let y'all look at the applications. I'll have some recommendations, but
When will we do the next one?
that'll be on the eighth, April the eighth.
So we'll do,
We'll do the general fund and the hospitality fund.
And then it's a Saturday again?
Yes.
April.
That's Tuesday.
I got it.
And that'll be sure enough till probably noon or 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
That'll take some time.
9 o'clock.
Cause there's some things we really need to dig into and discuss.
and we will, when will we do first reading on the budget?
I'm hoping after the eighth,
On the
May.
regular May meeting, I mean, the regular April meeting?
I'm hoping we can do that. If we can get everything hammered out on the 8th, and then the next meeting is on the 18th. I can present that. I would like to, if we feel pretty comfortable on the 8th, and maybe working on a few days, I would like to have a committee meeting of the finance committee on the 18th, just prior to the council meeting. And y'all move that to council, and then we can actually work on it in council on the 18th. And then, committee meeting will be again on May the 2nd. We can, have a council and a committee meeting then. And possibly, if everything goes well, and we all stay close to the grindstone, you theoretically could have a budget approved on May the 16th.
That would be good.
And that way you wouldn't have to worry about it in June. It would already be in place. So, that's a accelerated schedule. I'll just go ahead and tell the public my plans for April. I will be out of town the 12th through the 16th. But as always, I'm available. I'll have all the electronics. But hopefully we'll have, I know after Saturday on the 8th, there'll be some adjustments to make. But the spreadsheet, the budget's already done for the general budget. I need to make the adjustments that y'all desire. So hopefully after the 8th, the turnaround to get the budget, the final budget out will take long. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, anything else we need to bring up? Everybody good?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Hey, you can get to